Overwhelm is becoming kind of ubiquitous these days. All leaders have an overwhelming amount of work to do. With the way technology is right now, and the fact that we're global, most people are working 24/7, even if they don't intend to work 24/7. It's just that you wake up in the morning and you've got several things on your phone that you need to respond to, and it's very easy to just get in there and respond right away. Maybe you're looking at your phone and it's a Saturday and something pops up. So there's this 24/7-ish nature to our work. And the more people that we have that we're working with, the more things are going to come up, the more conversation that's going to happen, the more ideas that are going to come up. And really, there's no containment. There's no natural way to contain. So before, even when everyone just got in their car and went to work and didn't have the kinds of communication devices that would give them access to people all the time, that was a natural container. You tended to go to work, you worked your 8 hours, but when you were at home, people didn't, it was hard for them to reach you at home. They would have to either call you on the landline and take the initiative to do that, or they would have to go over to your house and bother you there. And most people would be wrapped up in their own personal stuff, so they wouldn't do it. Also, you didn't necessarily have people working overseas, so everybody stopped working at the same time. Well, you don't have that now. You have people working in all time zones. And so things are happening whether you're at work or not, and people are checking in with you whether you're at work or not. So you need some way to contain it. And the problem is that if you actually think in terms of my job is to get everything done, you'll be setting yourself up for an impossible task. You physically cannot get everything done. I think that's a hard pill for some people to swallow. But just with the way work works these days, it's impossible to get everything done. So what you have to get good at is knowing what's the 20% that's going to get you 80% results and making sure that you're progressing on that. And often those things are not the urgent things. So when you're totally succumbing to the overwhelm, typically you're handling the things that are most urgent first, and you're kind of running around like a chicken with your head cut off, and you're sort of crisis driven. But because you're only dealing with the urgent things and you're not having time to sit and think strategically and do the long-term planning and the things that nobody's going to yell at you if you don't get it done, so you keep procrastinating on that because you're trying to deal with everything that's coming at you, you end up creating more problems because the group's not being proactive. So you really have to get disciplined about creating time to do the important work that's not urgent, the important strategic work that represents the 20%, or that, the 20% that's going to get you 80% results. That requires letting go of the idea that you're going to be able to get everything done. And once you've let go of the idea that you're going to be able to get everything done, then you can start coming up with a strategy to handle the things that you're not realistically going to be able to get done. So either it's delegating, or it's pushing it forward, kind of kicking the can forward until maybe you can do it, or maybe it doesn't become relevant anymore. So you have strategies, but you just have to be real with yourself. I'm not going to be able to do everything. Some problems are going to take care of themselves without my intervention, but I always want to be working on the top 20%. And so as a leader, what I often do is time blocking, and I make sure they get the focus time blocked in first, because otherwise they're never going to be strategic and they're just going to keep creating more chaos and more urgency. So we get that first, and then we get their people, because they have to, if they're leaders, you're not a good leader if you're not talking to your people. So the most overwhelmed leaders aren't talking to their people because they're too busy trying to get their work done. And then that's creating a problem. So as a leader, you got to get your focus time in, you got to get your people time in, and you have to have that nicely balanced. And then you have to have a time block to handle the crises that come up that day, because everyone has unexpected things that come up during the day that you have to be present for. So we get that time block in, and then we have a time block for administrative. So usually with overwhelm, I'm having people kind of time block. I'm also having them distinguish between what they can control and what they can't control, because most overwhelm comes from two things. number one, containment or lack of containment. So how do you contain it? So it might just be making a big list of everything, and at least it's contained on that piece of paper. So the idea of containment is putting it all in a box, at least knowing what you're supposed to be doing. Even though you know you can't deal with everything in that box, at least it's all in the box, so there's no surprises. A lot of the anxious overwhelm comes from the surprises. So containment is number one, and then control. You have to really understand what you can control, what you can't control at all, and what you can respond to, and then what you can't control 100% that you can influence. If you're really clear on that, those two things, containment and understanding what you can control, tend to take a lot of the anxiety out of the overwhelm, and it gets you calmer. And then you can strategize. Well, how am I going to use my influence? I can only influence this 30%. What can I do? A lot of overwhelm comes from trying to control things that you really can't control. Like, for example, you have a conflict that might be unresolvable, and you're trying to resolve the conflict. But thinking about the fact that, well, I have a 75% chance of resolving this conflict, but there's a 25% chance that I won't be able to resolve this conflict, and there won't be anything I can do about it. So how am I going to handle that? So in the 25% case that I won't be able to handle it, maybe this is what I'll do. In the 75% influence I have, this is how I'm going to use my efforts. So the time blocking helps organize your day. The Overwhelm tool, which is just this tool I have that helps people write everything down to contain it and then assess the level of control that they have on each thing. That Overwhelm tool helps you contain it and get the anxiety down. So those two tools in conjunction with each other are really good for handling overwhelm. And then the only block is just this idea that, I have to get everything done. And the truth is that you're not going to be able to get everything done. So coming to terms with that.